JR just went over what YES means for United Way. It means that we're investing in our youth. It means we're investing in our young children, and we're investing in the households so that they're stable, so that they can support those young people and those kids as they move and become adults over the course of time. And we do this at United Way in what we call a two-generational framework. That is, what we've come to understand is that we can intervene and make sure that kids get access to early childhood education, but perhaps there are issues in that household, maybe there are some economic challenges for that household, that make it difficult for the child to access some of that care. And what we try to do is support that household in a different and more holistic way through this two-generational framework. We're working with both the children and we're working with the adults in the family. So one of the unique things and unique challenges that we have in one of our communities, and that's Johnston County, is that they have a high rate of teenage pregnancy. And Johnston County has taken an approach to really figure out, how do we work with these at-risk moms? How do we work with their children? And so who you're going to meet today is the collaborative partners that are really working on this issue. All right? So we're going to move into the panel. So name an organization, and then I'll kind of sweep through.
Good morning. I'm Taylor Kirks. I'm with JCI. We're a nonprofit that's headquartered in Selma, North Carolina, with a footprint in the 5-county region around that. We primarily provide workforce development services and career services to youth and adults that have disadvantages, disabilities, anything that may be a barrier to success for those folks.
And I'm Teresa McDonald. I work with Taylor at JCI.
My name is Beth Moore. I work for the Partnership for Children in Johnston County, and we're a unique model for nonprofits. We're a public-private funded operation, so that means that we get some public funding, but also some private funding. And we work with families that have kids 0 to 5, so that real early ed stuff is what we're working on.
Hi, my name is Natalia Parrish, and I work for the Johnston County Department of Social Services with the Adolescent Parenting Program. And our program is geared towards prevention, pretty much. So we prevent dropouts. We work on preventing second pregnancies and also preventing child protective services from being involved. So in order to do that, we do intensive case management, working on various things. Through social services, we're able to provide daycare assistance, transportation assistance if they qualify. Pretty much anything we need to do in order to make them successful.
So each one of you has a different perspective on this challenge associated with adolescent pregnancy. So from your perspective, what's that problem like in Johnston County? What's it like for the adults? What's it like for the children? What's it like for that whole family? What are the challenges associated with adolescent pregnancy? Well, and you don't have to go in order,
okay.
So you guys can go wherever you want.
Well, I'll just speak kind of globally, and then you guys can drill down a little bit. When we're talking about youth in transition, we're talking about those youth that are seniors in high school or that have dropped out. In Johnston County, we have about 2,500 disconnected youth based on the last survey. So that's 2,500 young adults that are not working and not in school between the ages of 16 and 24. The problem really comes in that we're trying to address is that 30% of those nationwide have children in the household. So we all understand that it's a huge compounding issue that, when you have a child, you're less likely to graduate, you're less likely to move on into the workforce or to college. So that's what we're really trying to impact on a larger scale, but individually with these students, there are a myriad of issues. You guys can speak on those.
Oh wow, where do I start? Oh wow, we have issues, obviously transportation in Johnston County is a huge county, and unfortunately trying to get to work, because work's a huge issue, trying to find a way to support yourself and your child. So there again, that's where Taylor helps us out a lot with that, with our team of parents. But just in general, trying to stay focused, a lot of them don't have that support at home. So trying to find stable housing, trying to find just the basic needs are always a huge concern.
Right, and it's hard enough to be a parent when you're a grown-up, right? Like, but then all of a sudden, if you're a child under the age of 21, 18, 15, then you've got all these other compounding issues to help manage, because you still need a parent yourself. So that two-generational approach that Stan was talking about really comes into play when we're trying to teach these teenagers how to be parents and nurturing to their children, so we can break some of these cycles. A lot of the parents that Natalia just referenced, a lot of the teenagers didn't have that stable home environment growing up. So they don't know how to be a parent, right? They just don't know. So that's where we get to kind of all work collaboratively to figure out what is the best services really that they need. Is it in-home services where we need to actually go to their house? Is it putting them in a group of other parents to learn how to be an effective parent and to be a stronger family? And is it to try to get them jobs? It's all those things. And we can't do that by ourselves. Like, there's no way we can manage all that.
So, you talked a little bit there about what I call the cycle, right? And in you guys' experience and in your minds and based on what you know, what's the best thing that can happen that will break that cycle?
Education.
Talk about that. Meaning.
For us, we do a lot of, especially my workers working one-on-one to educate our young ladies and gentlemen. So education's key. When they are opened up to the world of possibilities, because a lot of our youth that we get they've come from broken homes. Probably 75-80% have had child protective services involved in their youth. So their parents have been teen parents. And I can say from my 14 years in doing this, I've seen the cycles being broken just by being educated. Right now, I have 2 of the kids who I worked with their moms have college degrees, and now they're at what we call early college. Their kids are honor students. So investing in them now, not just invest in these teen moms, but also invest in their children long term. So we're seeing the success long term, and I've been able to see that with my time here.
And that early ed piece is so critical. So a lot of the families didn't have those opportunities. And you know that teenage pregnancy is not new though, by the way. Like, y'all know somebody that was a teenage mom, right? So it's not that we're working with anything new. It's just that we want to stop it. And we want the young kids that are coming up to not think that that's the only way that a family is started. So by giving those the really young children this different idea of what it's supposed to look like or what it could look like, then we start breaking those cycles. And it takes a while.
And it seems like it would take a while too to, it's not just that family and it's just not you all as service providers. Talk about the other supports that are needed for their success.
Well, Taylor, we need him.
Yeah.
We need Taylor.
Yeah, from the workforce side, a lot of the, talking about education, a lot of our students don't get exposed to the world of work early. They don't understand what the opportunities are out there. They don't understand colleges that are available to them. So exposing early on that end. But I did want to point out, we spoke about transportation and child care assistance. A lot of these young ladies and young gentlemen would not be successful without that help. That's a huge benefit to their time, and they need less to worry about so they can focus on things to get them to the next level, right?
I understand a lot of it's about exposure. What we found is, as Natalia said, they're not exposed to the possibilities and the things that they can do and the places that they can go because they've been limited, or they think they've been limited by becoming parents early. So our job is to expose them to schools and colleges and jobs and careers mostly, because a lot of them do try to work, but we want to help them figure out the difference between going from job to job and finding something that you want to do as a career, and that makes your home more stable.
and you would just be, I've been shocked over and over again at how our youth in Johnston County don't even travel into Wake County. You know, for many of them, when we've taken trips, and I've taken youth to Chuck's down there, and they've just been blown away. They've never been to Wake County. These are 16, 17-year-olds that have just stayed in Johnston County their entire lives. So, you know, it's important for us to really invest and show those opportunities, you know, outside of what they're really normalized.
And what's the big industries and education factors in Johnston County?
Well, you know, we have a lot of healthcare opportunities. A lot of pharma is coming in, you know, Novo Nordisk and all those. But with our students, they need to know the educational opportunities available to them to be exposed to these new industries that are beginning to flourish in our area, or have the transportation available to go outside the county. Yeah, I mean, we really try to focus on their interests, because if you can galvanize a little passion in their career interests, then we can expose them to a lot more opportunities.
So one of the things I was kind of wondering about is the partnership with the public schools. I'm sure they're a key player. They don't necessarily receive United Way funding, but they're a key player at you all's table. What role do they play to complement what you all do?
They are absolutely wonderful to work with because they know what we do makes a difference, and we're going to keep their kids, the kids who are teen parents in the public schools, in school. So they're wonderful. They let my staff come in every week, follow up with their grades, their attendance, making sure they're in school. So we'll get a report from the student advocates, guidance counselors, and my staff are out there. So they're going to the home saying, hey, where are you? And a lot of it is actually having people who care, who invest time in them, because they've never had this before. They don't know that it's out there, and so that's a great thing with the public schools.
In the school system also, especially with the early intervention, they've helped us a lot to identify and to help get the young children that may be at risk for some other school failures into programs like Head Start or NC Pre-K, which is state funded. We're the lead agency for that. So any of the families that we're working with pretty much can automatically qualify for NC Pre-K, which will give them a better start as the children, because they do have so many risk factors.
And actually, the school system invites us in once a year and allows some of our teen parents to go and talk to the 7th graders in the school system to explain the difficulties that they faced and the poor decisions that they made and how their choices affected their life and how encouraging them to make better choices.
And really coming from the kids, I think that, like 7th grader, does anybody have a 7th grader here? Because I'm going to tell you, they don't really listen too much, right? So, but they listen to their peers, right? They're only a couple years older than them. So those panels that come in are really a huge prevention piece of what we're doing.
Do you guys have questions? I have lots of questions, so I can keep this rolling.
Can you guys talk about how you work with the United Way and how the United Way impacts your agency?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're kind of the newest agency partner in this with United Way, and when we first started, you know, it was about collaboration. It's about this 2-generational model, and it really redefined how we work together in many ways, because we're all together for a common mission, and I have to give United Way 100% credit for encouraging that and making it a reality, so that we can spread these dollars further and we can really impact the families on a deeper level.
So what was interesting, the United Way used to kind of fund all of us separately, and over the past few years, because we're involved, the partnership's involved in another collaboration with the Boys and Girls Club, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Community Action. And what's been really interesting is that now we're kind of all cross-collaborating within these 2 collaboratives that are funded. And what happens is we get this bigger collective impact, right? So we're not duplicating services, we're not stepping on each other's toes and like, who's got this kid, who's got that kid, what do we need here? We all get to work together. It becomes much more effective and efficient. We were all a little kind of scared. We're like, are we going to get any funding? We really need this to do our work. It was a big switch to how things were funded. But I think it's been amazing to have the support of the other collaborative partners. We've all worked, we've done so much together that we wouldn't have even known each other had this not happened with the United Way. So thank you for, where's Eric? Thank you for your vision, seriously, because it's been an amazing process.
And we've received funding through United Way for a long time, and the investment has paid off huge. We've been able to invest in doing educational programs for our girls, but I will say definitely this collaboration has so improved the services for them and making them so much more successful.
So as you were talking about what happened in the past and then kind of the shift in this collaborative, how, and you may have to think about this, how has it, you've talked about how it's made it, how has it made it more efficient and effective?
I think especially with referrals and knowing how to find the people that need the services the most, and working together closely with Taylor and Natalia and Teresa, we've been able to put extra things in place because we know about it now. You know, I might not have known that you've got a girl that has no transportation, can't get to a group program, but you know what, we can get to her house and do something. Or we have another student that maybe didn't participate in DSS, but we can still get them to Taylor. So it's just this cross sector services, I think, that's really made it more efficient.
The communication about the cases has really improved. And the way that we use the funding, and you know, because on our side we have a lot of money for internships and work experiences through other grants that we receive, but we may not have tapped into that otherwise had we not received folks through this funding. So, you know, just making sure that we all communicate together and we use the funds most efficiently, that is worth it.
I have a question. So how do you reach out to the students and find their passion so they'll quit chasing jobs, as you say, and define career goals for themselves? Because that seems to be the disconnect there. Just chasing jobs after jobs after jobs and not identifying what their passion is and what their career goals could be.
Right. There's a lot of different things, from the basics of career assessments and just exposing them to a lot of tools online and on paper, but then tours of job sites. A great example, we took a tour last week of a furniture manufacturer in Clayton, and knowing we had some really excited students seeing the quality assurance part of that, and it was just phenomenal. So just exposing, continuing to have those discussions, because a lot of times we fail to have the discussion because we're worried about finishing high school, which is needed, but we want to continue to have those further discussions like what next, what do you want to do after this, and what's out there.
And through the collaborations too, we have a little more time to build these relationships with the students. So they may have done the pen and paper test or the personality test or whatever, but then we get them in a parenting situation or one of our programs, and they're like, wow, we really want to do that. You've got a couple that have gone on to social work.
Yes, I have been fortunate enough, like I said, I've been there a while, that I have actually hired 2 of my previous clients as APP social workers. So they have come full round. Currently, right now, my intern is a previous graduate of APP, and she's at State. And so when talking to her, because a lot of times you don't get here some long-term success until you run into them years later, she has one of her friends who was in our program is at Asheville and will be graduating this year. We have another who's one of her friends who is actually getting her master's at State in social work. And then we also have one, and this is just her friends from our program that she sort of built the relationship with, and one at Fayetteville State who will be graduating this year. So, and that to me speaks volumes of the difference you can make if you just invest and you have that time, and so they can see the future. It's not just, I've had a child, this is it, I'm just going to be working at McDonald's, somewhere like that. They see actual options and they can see their future.
Natalia, that's an interesting point. How much do the young people who are parenting kind of form cohorts and relationships and then kind of use each other as a means of support going on. How does that happen?
It does. So we find that, especially, like I said, it comes through the years, I'll run into one, and they keep in touch. They've built this support system among themselves that even after they leave us and they've moved on, they keep in touch. And so, because they're in the same situation. And most of the time when they find in high school, other people can't relate to them. And a lot of times they become sort of outcast, because a lot of times we've had girls who, I mean, you're stereotyped then. Same thing with the guys. And so they sort of fall into the cracks there. But when they meet these friends who are in the same situations and they can support each other, and it just builds that lifelong sort of reassurance.
Mm-hmm. And one of the programs we offer is a 16-week program that we do specifically for adolescent parents. So Natalia and Taylor and Teresa, we all kind of refer families into it. It's a once-a-week intensive parenting program, really. Does everything from talking about child development to keeping your body safe to like really hard topics that nobody ever told them. Like some of them didn't actually know how they got pregnant. And I know that seems really crazy in this day and age, but it's a true story. So we talk about all that stuff, and they do get that protective factor of having peer supports and people that care about them and that they can count on that they might not necessarily have in their own family.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. You mentioned it earlier. You talked about the fact that just off the top of your head, and it doesn't have to be accurate, what percentage of these young people have been involved in child welfare?
Well, you want an accurate figure.
No.
I mean, like, we're not just going to make up a number for you, but it's a lot. Like,
Yeah, I can say that, I would say, like I said, about 75%,
Okay.
80%.
75 to 80. And let's talk about what that means.
A lot of times what that means are these are the ones who the situations either weren't bad, just under the line, just weren't bad enough to be removed. So they're not good situations at home, there's not the support system, there's been abuse, neglect, there have been all of these things, but it just didn't quite meet the definition. And so they're the ones who are just sort of skirting by the system or fall through the cracks a lot of times.
and a lot of times their own parents were in the system too. So this is really secular. Like, this happens generation after generation because they didn't have the tools to become parents, right? So like, if you never, it's just like in our jobs. I can't go do my job without the right tools for success, right? I have to have a degree. I have to have, you know, the means to be able to do my work. Well, parenting is the same way. If you've never had the means to do that, you don't know how to do it. And so we see these families that they love their kids. You know, they don't not love their kids. They're just in some really tricky situations that they don't know how to get out of.
So Sam, I met a young lady last week through a referral from APP, and she has been in the welfare system for a while. She had to be removed from her home. She's very early in her pregnancy, and the worker was able to get her a home, get a place at a home, a Christian home out of the county. She's still doing the work, her school work through Johnston County, but she had to be placed in another county for work.
So, and one of the, where I'm going with this is that even those young people who are now parents have experienced what we've called in the business adverse childhood experiences, right? The ACEs. So for those of you who don't know, ACEs, when you start adding them up, have long-term consequences, right? And so part of what you guys are trying to do is shift, right, or work with minimizing the impact of those early childhood experiences at that adolescent, early level, right?
And it makes a difference because everybody experiences stress. I had stress coming here because the traffic was bad and there was fog, and so like we all have stress. But these families go through what's called toxic stress, and that's that continued stress of not having enough food to eat, not having enough money to get the lights kept on, and not having those basic needs met. So it alters their brain development. So if we can catch them way early, you know, when they're pregnant or in the very early stages of childhood, we we get to shift some of that, and we get to get that toxic stress to just regular, like, traffic stress, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So think for a minute, 5 years from now, and think about this group of people here, other people in the community. What would you need and want from the other parts of the community to support these young people to better their life 5 years from now? What would you ask of us at United Way, those in the room?
One of the things I think that would help, I was at a conference recently, and there was a group that was presenting a pipeline of sorts, where different agencies did, gave the referrals for the children, but there were agencies who were willing to hire them. Just a straight pipeline. People at the agencies that were willing to work with them and train with them, and we have some of those agencies in the community. These were like big corporations, big agencies that had set up a training program so that they could do direct hire after, we had prepared them and they were prepared for the workforce.
So it's connecting early on into career pipelines, is what I hear you saying. Uh-huh.
Absolutely. And it's just even the understanding that, that we've got some brilliant kids out there, and they just need a shot, right? They need somebody to believe in them just enough so that they can be these amazing, productive members of society. We want them to have strong families and strong, just be strong in general, just not keep that cycle going that they lived in. We want to break that cycle. And that's from help with funding and internships and just general support and understanding that it doesn't have to define them just because they had a baby young.
Anything else for the future?
I agree.
I agree.
Just an awareness. Like, I love having these conversations because a lot of times we deal with it every day. I mean, we're working with these disconnected young people that face all of these challenges, and just an awareness in the community that this is a problem, and that this is an issue that together we have to figure out a solution to. Whether it be employers or colleges or school systems or workforce development or parenting education, all together, I mean, we can make an impact on these dreadful numbers that we see throughout the state. The kids are just not doing anything, and it's a drain on our communities when they're not. So, yeah, just an awareness that this is going on, and sometimes it's not in the forefront, and we don't pay attention, but it is a problem that needs to be addressed.
Oh, and I'll do one more plug. As nonprofits, we always need volunteers to help with lots and lots of different programs and things. So if you're out in Johnston County or in the area, get in touch with us. We always have opportunities, anything from helping with some of the parenting programs to, mentoring a young person that says, you can do this, like you can be successful. So always volunteers.
All right, anything else from you guys out here? If not, thank you all for being here.